get started. We're going to begin with act of reverence. Yeah. The last button to my right. Well,
I think
does this have to be plugged in? It's my mic. No? All right, we're good. We're good. Okay, we're going to begin with the act. All right, well, this is a tough start, but we'll get there. We'll begin with the act of reverence. I'm turning my mic off. I'm going to begin with the act of reverence. For a young person. No, it's good. Ma'am? Are you a student? Where do you go to school? I'll see. You do me a favor? Over to that mic. You just did the pledge of allegiance. You mind? I'm sure you know the pledge. What year are you in? I'm sure you said the pledge of allegiance more than times you can count, okay?
not this year.
Not this year. Well, you say. What's your name?
Tajane.
David.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the January 23rd business meeting minutes and February 6th and February 20th special meeting and February 25th special meeting? Move it, Mr. President. Wait a second. Second. All those in favor? Ayes have it. We're next going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the Yes We Can Award. Just to give a little background here. For those of you who didn't know, wow, this is really terrible. For those of you who didn't know, the board has instituted a new practice, which is to recognize what individuals do in this community, as well as what whole schools do in this community to show this community that we are a successful district. The I Believe Award is an award that recognizes individuals. Students are awarded for whatever success they have in school, progress that they've made. They may not be the 4.0 student, but they may be the student that's shown the most success. And then once we identify who that student is in the school, we then ask that student to identify someone in his or her school that has contributed to his or her success. It could be the custodian, it could be the cafeteria lady, it could be the principal, it could be a teacher. The people that you see sitting right in front of me in that picture, those were our first award recipients. They received the Yes I Believe Award last month. Today, we alternate, and we recognize a whole school. And we do that by recognizing a school, and we give them the Yes We Can Award. Again, we want to hold up not only individuals, but whole schools that are making progress. So, as you all know, the board is set up such that each school has a board liaison. And the school that we're recognizing today is the George Mather Ford, school number 4. The board liaison for that school happens to be Malik Evans. Colleagues, why don't you join me down so we can congratulate School 4. I know the superintendent can't say enough good things about Karen Jackson and her team about School 4. I was with him earlier today, and he was telling me about the great progress that School 4 has made under the leadership of Principal Karen Jackson. The ideal winner of the board's first Yes We Can award is school number 4 for outstanding attendance improvement. School 4 was a target school last year for truancy outreach, meaning it was one of the 4 lowest elementary schools in the district during the 2011-2012 for average daily attendance in the grades K through 3. Attendance improved significantly during the 2012-2013
and the school year has continued to make gains. Data that Betsy Hofer Goyer pulled recently shows that year-to-date, School 4 has the second best K-3 attendance across all schools in the district. It's an almost a worst-to-first story. Principal Karen Jackson and parent liaison Janita Bennett, can you come forward if you are here and accept this award? Thank you. And it reads, the Yes We Can Award presented to George Mather Forbes, School Number 4, in recognition of exceptional improvement in student attendance, February 2014.
Hello, everyone. Let me just say I greatly accept this award for School Number 4. It's not what we did, it's what our school as a whole completed, including the staff, the students, and the parents. And I'm really proud of School Number 4 because I was a student from School Number 4. So it's with her, and so was Mrs. Bennett. So our thing is, it's not an accomplishment. This is something we're not going to continue to stop until we get 100%. And we're on our way. So thank you.
Challenges. Unless our kids, our families, our workers begin to see that we can succeed, we will fail. Thanks for coming. All right, we got some more business to take care of. Speakers, addressing agenda items, we have none. Is it working now? We do have. Yeah, right. We do have speakers not addressing agenda item, and let's begin with Tony Tisdale. Tony Tisdale? I'm sorry? Okay. Ms. Howard, Tajane Howard. Let's give her another round of applause.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Did you hear me?
Yep.
I just want to start by saying that I met Teresa at Charlotte when I was in the 7th grade. It's just so much that I can say that she has done for me. Like, she helped me become a better person. I started in small classes, just behaving badly, doing what I want to do, not what I was told to do, and I just feel like I've become a better person as of knowing her. I just would like to speak in support of school social workers. And, yeah, like I was saying, I met her as in Charlotte, and then I transferred over to Edison, and although, like, we wasn't together, she still helped me. So I can call her on the phone and say, I'm struggling with this, and she will help me, and I'll just get better. And we still kept in touch even though we wasn't in the same building. She just been so much for me. She helped me be a better mother to come to school. I got a daughter. She's 17 months. So it's like with her and my mom together pushing me to strive to be a better person, that's what made me still want to go to school, not drop out, not be a statistic, become a better person, graduate. So I'm going to graduate this year at 17 years old. And also helped me to stop and think about what I'm going to do and say. She has helped me to understand what I need to do to become successful in life. I have been able to talk to her about my past and present. The current stuff that hurts me. Teresa was there. Teresa was there when I had spinal surgery to correct my back. She has taken me to doctor's appointments, working later appointments, and helped me to get the right clothes when needed. Teresa came to my baby shower and brought balloons. Teresa has been there for me through a lot. Her and my mother has also developed a good relationship. She has been a mentor between us at times. She has advocated for me at school and in the community. So I just want to thank her for that. And I want to say that I love her and I know that she loves me.
Thank you. Ronald Dent. Ronald Dent, and after Ronald Dent, Anthony Canty. Mr. Canty, why don't you come on up? Mr. Canty? Come on up. Is Ronald here? All right. Well, whoever wants to go first. Doesn't make any difference.
How y'all doing this afternoon?
Good.
I just want to start off by saying I heard about this cut with these school counselors, and it didn't impress me. It mostly upsetted me because I really thought about it. I'm about to be 21 this year, actually still in school. It's hard for me. With the help of Mrs. Gloria LeJewitt, I'm still struggling, just, trying to do school, do everything else, and still maintain to keep 2 kids at the same time. I am a single parent. Miss LeJewitt has helped me through everything, through a whole DSS appointment, through any appointment that I need, anything. Like, she's just somebody that you could turn and look to, and I think that y'all should really pay attention to y'all just taking away from a lot of youth lives and not just thinking about, yourselves and whatever it is that y'all trying to cut, because it's a lot of young people out here who look up to people like that, who may not have that relationship with their parents or their family member, but could have a good relationship with somebody else, especially somebody with school that'll help them and contribute to much more than just school and other things that'll help you succeed in life. And I think we should all pay attention to it. So I want to say thank y'all, and thank you, Miss Gloria LeJewitt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dent. Anthony Canty.
Hello, everyone. I'd just like to second what he was saying. That young man is exactly right. Budget cuts are very personal. Some people may not think budget cuts are, but they are. Miss LeJewitt, she is very helpful to my kids at All City High. Her and other teachers, and they already have a lot of work on their shoulders already due to previous budget cuts. And those budget cuts are the most worst thing there is. Our kids they're doing a good job. Teachers are doing a good job with what they have. Budget cuts is just making it worse. How can they, expect them to succeed and go ahead in the future when you keep cutting their feet off from under them? You can't do that. And, I love Miss LeJewitt and the other city schools. Schools, everything, they're all doing a terrific job. I just think that when the budget cuts, you really have to be careful because, some of these kids, they want to get up, they want to do the right thing every day. But, some of them, they may not have the mental wherewithal or good people like Miss LeJewitt around to show them what to do. Taking people like her and many other teachers out of this system, because of budget cuts, because of these politicians and legislatures in Albany who doesn't have a clue. All they do want to do is look at numbers or books or whatever. I have no respect for those people, but, for the local legislators, and thank God for you people, and I applaud you all for you because you do a good job. But I just want to, hope that you guys just really think about the children. Children are very important, and we have to really focus on them. And in order to make the children successful in life, we got to make the adults in their lives successful too, and keep the adults in their lives. That's all I want to say.
Thank you very much. David Frazier. David Frazier. David Frazier. That'll work. That's, there you go. That'll work.
In the Rainbow Coalition of men and women, boys and girls. I'm going to take my time, and I'm not appropriating from that gift, huge and humble, but it's got all the data of church and state in document form from the very beginning to, I don't know whether it's copyrighted in my book, but thank you. And
You're going to pass those. You can just give it to the clerk, and she'll make sure we all get them. Thank you.
well, I'll read it. That's the fastest way to do it. When Madeline O'Hare, by herself, forced required Bible reading and prayer out of the public schools, took effect in 1963, darkness fell on the land. Immediately, we were into sinning with a vengeance. Lies about morality, about what is learning, and about how order and authority are maintained created confusion and disunity of purpose among staff and students. Even Jesus, the Savior, who is the wisdom and the power of God, revealed some truths to me for the sharing. Not that they're brand new to people, but I have them down into 6 statements. 1, the Constitution forbids only a state church, not the honoring of God in the United States. Big mistake. Number 2, neighborhood schools are the most efficient schools. 3, good textbooks and teachers with a genuine calling, not only a union card, promote knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that is solid. Number 4, Jesus reveals the love and goodness that enables everyone to persevere. World philosophies only are dead in the water. Number 5, private schools always do what they do better than public schools in recent times. Face it. Number 6, the melting pot, which is, somebody mentioned that in a negative way, the melting pot, which is every class and kind of student together, makes the strongest republic. Let us be willing and obedient to a heavenly vision, and return to the old paths of living. I cannot wait to see what transformation is coming. The second piece of paper, that's the speech. The second piece of paper I'm going to take a minute to read, if I may. Talking religion, that's what everybody likes to hate. The salvation angle. Of course, we're here to go someplace when we die, and those who read the Bible got the beginning and the end put together. This is how I summarized it after a 50-year try to be born again. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 statements from Scripture and 1 hymn verse, which declares the whole counsel of God in a few words, and it took me that long to get through the terrible preaching you can find in Rochester, New York, I must say, and a couple other places. Get ready, get set, go. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. Thanks be unto God for his unspeakable gift. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way. And the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. Nevertheless, the foundation of God standeth sure, having this seal. The Lord knoweth them that are his, and let everyone that nameth the name of Christ depart from iniquity. All from the Authorized Version of 1611. The hymn is this. It comes from the Plymouth Brethren Open Meeting Hymn Book, Hymns of Worship and Remembrance. Done is the work that saves. Done is the work that saves, once and forever done. Finished the righteousness that clothes the unrighteous one. The love that blesses us below is flowing freely to us now. Those words by Horatius Bonar, 1808 to 1889.
Elaine Johnson, to be followed by Elizabeth Laidlaw.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The schools cannot teach a child that is not in the classroom. That was the heading for the blog that was in the DNC today from Julio Vasquez. It's quite true. I am a tutor in one of the schools for many years now, and have been working with a child who for the past 2 years has had much difficulty getting to school, who needs a great deal of help. And his teacher, bless her heart, is doing her very, very best to help him. But when he isn't in school, she can't help him. Now, social workers, I believe, I should probably say I'm a retired clinical social worker, not a school social worker, but I believe that social workers in our schools are best qualified to do the work of helping children to get to school by meeting with their parents, not in some kind of punishing way. Social workers don't do that. They do psychosocial assessments. They meet the parent where they are and try to determine what the services are, what the problems are, what the services are that could help that family to become so stable that that child will be in school every day. Cutting school social workers is just an enormous detriment to the lives and the progress that we can make with children. And what we want are whole children and whole families. So I just urge you, every school needs at least one full-time social worker, and many schools require much more than that. We have many traumatized children in our schools, and we know, you know, I know, that trauma exists in their family as well. So let's pull together, find a way to make sure that social workers are an important part of every school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Laidlaw. She'll be followed by Father Tracy.
I do this in class all the time. I have to wait till I have your attention. Good evening.
Good evening.
Superintendent Vargas and commissioners. This isn't the first time I've been before you, but every time I am, I need to express my gratitude for the hours you spend helping the kids in the city of Rochester, and also for the amazing teaching that my child has benefited from. So I want to start with that. This evening we brought you over 250 letters from members of 10 church collaborative, 10 city churches, all Presbyterians. The letters are signed by teachers, they're signed by parents, they're signed by retired professionals, they're signed by tutors. We have over 100 tutors who tutor hundreds of children every week. Some have been doing it for 25 years. We observe that our students are traumatized. And we have learned, Presbyterians are really geeky, so we did a lot of research. We researched inside the district. We also researched academic studies about how to heal students from trauma, because you know their brains are shut. They want to flee or fight or freeze. They don't want to learn. They can't physically learn. So we researched how to help restore their brains to a point where they can learn. And that happens with the school social worker. So we are here to ask you, to implore you, to restore and augment the number of budget lines for social workers. We need a full-timer at least in every building. In East High, where there are 400 special ed kids, they need several. So we're here to ask you, as you construct your budget, and you have so many things that you need to pay for, we're asking you to remember that people are way more important than things. So if you're choosing between replacing window shades, as I heard at the last budget meeting, or replacing buses that don't actually need replacing quite yet, as I heard at the budget meeting before, we want you to spend that money on social workers, because social workers can heal children, can restore their brains to a point where they can learn. And without doing that, there is no academic achievement. So I want to thank you for your time, and please do read the signatures on the letters. Many of them tell you about their involvement in the city school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Laidlaw. After Father Tracy, we'll hear from Brianna Britt.
Good evening, friends and collaborators. I appear tonight on behalf of the Ibero Education Task Force. And I have to confess I'm a little bit insecure, unaccustomed as I am, because it was my understanding there was supposed to be a presentation of the work of the Ibero Education Task Force tonight, and I was going to speak in support of it. So just to let you know, when the presentation comes, I'm in support of it. Okay. However, I think you already have a letter outlining the work of the task force, and it talks about a continuity of a struggle for equity for Latino students, an effort to achieve, to increase achievement, going back over 40 years to the Memorandum of Agreement in the early 70s, and highlighting with the IOTA report. And during that period, things have changed and other things have not changed. The population of Latino students has burdened exponentially. We still have, coming from Puerto Rico and other Latin countries, English language learners. And achievement in graduation from high school is still at unsuccessful levels. One bright light on the horizon has been our own superintendent, Borgen Vargas, who has been part of that struggle going back to the IOTA report. This report, however, is just not just another report with more recommendations. It's the result of 4 years of hard work and struggle. And we've had the tremendous help of Latino doctoral candidates in the University of Rochester Warner School of Education. That's been very helpful in identifying some of the work we needed to do. And so there are 6 recommendations, and I'll wait till we have a formal presentation of those, but as I said, when it comes, you'll know that Father Tracy supports it.
Thank you, Father Tracy. Brianna Britt, and Tamara Minter. Tamara Minter.
Good evening. I am Tamara Minter, or Tamara Minter. I am a teacher at School 36. I am what you call a long timer. I have worked many, many years for the city school district and in my home state of Ohio. Good evening, Dr. Vargas and commissioners. I'm very proud to come tonight. When I called to put my name on the agenda, I had something else that I wanted to speak about, but it has been cleared up. When I was assigned to school number 36 a few years ago, I did not want to go to the school. I wanted to be comfortable and stay in a community that I knew that was close to my home on the west side of Rochester. I was at School 44 and School 29. I even came down and asked if it could be reconsidered. Dr. Vargas has always answered my call when I've asked for support. When I was assigned to School 7, he came to my school. I'm very grateful to have people within the community of the school community that will respond to us when we ask for help. I was at School 36 and pulled from School 36 and was sent to School 9. I couldn't understand it, but when I got there, I did all that I could to help the children of School 9. And I am still supporting some of those students now in a girls program that I co-chair through my sorority, and twice a month we meet. I'm here tonight to say great things are happening at School 36. Behavior has improved in our school, and I am so proud of that. I am a behavior support specialist. I didn't realize that social workers were going to be cut. In my school, or any consideration, we have a 0.5 social worker. We have 4 812 classes of children that are very, very challenging with behaviors, and many of them have great mental illnesses and emotional disturbances. We have a part-time psychologist. We were really blessed this year. More support came into our school. Even though there was a cut with the psychologist and the social worker, I asked Dr. Vargas, and I don't know if he did it, I said, please leave me at School 36 and leave me here full-time so that I can come to work every day and fill in the gap when we don't have a full-time social worker. It is greatly needed. No, I'm not a licensed social worker. I do hold 2 advanced degrees, but I can do the work. I want to also tell you, we received a literacy teacher K through 2. That was wonderful. A teacher reported today, Mrs. Minter, we are having great improvements with our first graders. It's working. We have 2 coaches. It is working. We are having grade level meetings. Instruction is improving with our children. I participated in testing the Ames-Webb's test for grades 4 and 6. I am so sad. There are only 8 boys in grade 4. None of those boys are on grade level. We need a full-time reading teacher for those children that are in grades 3, 4, 5, and 6. The K through T teacher cannot tap into those children. And finally, those children that are receiving instruction and intervention from the K2 teacher are being moved. But there is another body of children that are not being helped at all. And these children receive no intervention services. You need to know the truth. We have children that don't because their scores are so low. What do? I encourage them to come to school every day. I tell them they're important. I give them hugs and love them. Don't forget the children that are not receiving. Put more support in the schools so that your schools can be what they can be. I'm over my time, but I also tell you I put my own daughter in city schools. She went to School of the Arts, graduated in the first IB program, holds 3 degrees, graduated magna cum laude, and now is finishing her dissertation for doctoral work from the state of Louisiana. This is what Rochester schools could do. I could have sent her to Mercy. I could have sent her to Harley. I put her in a city school, Wilson Magnet First IB program. I want the same for all children that my daughter have, and we can do it if you give us the support. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Dr. Vargas?
Just respond briefly with one sentence. There is no consideration to cut social worker. However, I also want to open my remark, President White and Commissioner, by saying that the staff is working extremely hard to put a budget together during a difficult time. I think one of the speakers mentioned very clearly, budget is a statement of value and priority. And, you know, when you don't have enough dollars to pay for everything that we have been doing in the past, represents a challenge. And I'm very proud of what we have done in the past 2 years in here. We have done our very best, and rest assured that that is not under consideration. If it's one thing we are considering, your wise advice on how we can provide more support to to our students. And that's part of the struggle, also putting a budget together. So I want to say thank you to the staff that is working so hard that, to make sure that we follow some of your advice today. So following the spirit of good news, you often hear that the Rochester City School District has a graduation rate around 47%. The reality is that when you look at our 5-year graduation rate, it's much higher. When you look at our 6-year graduation rate, it's around 60%. So our children are very resilient. They don't give up. So this January, we participated at a graduation. President White was there. Many teachers and administrators, 47 students, they complete their graduation in January, and we want to recognize their effort. Let me move on in terms of, we saw for the first time in Choir sometimes some encouraging news, particularly about the comprehensive English Regents exam. That's been an area of significant challenge for the district. And this January, our Regents exam in English, 11th grade English. Many of you remember the exam had changed, but you know, still now the exam that if some of you took when you went to New York State school, or if you graduated from a New York State school, today is a little harder than it used to be. So, but nevertheless, we made some significant improvement in there. We went from 28% in 2013 to 43.5% in 2014. And we also did experience some improvement in math. And those are part of the exams that students had to pass to obtain a Regent diploma in New York State. Or for the general population, that is the only diploma available, but that's the lowest. You can get one with advanced destination and so on and so forth. But we need to understand that our children, we are asking for them to do more. And like Commissioner Elliott said, that means that the adults in their lives are going to have to do more to support them so that they can succeed. In other areas, you can see on red, they were not as encouraging. So we are working hard to make sure that we examine what we can do to improve those areas that we didn't experience the encouraging growth that we receive in the English language art. I put this next, when you see student growth scores, it's very important to understand that now our school, there's a different metric now. The school can, someone mentioned school number 9. School number 9 experienced last year some of the highest growth. And yet their achievement may not be where they need to be, but with a new approach, if you will, or framework, the state and also as well as local district are paying attention to student growth, whether they start and whether they end out each year. Someone mentioned a very sad reality that some district and some school were engaging in a terrible practice, and that was that if you were the lowest end, sometimes those kids might have been ignored because the school practice was one in which if I have a kid with high 2, which is still basic proficient, I can get that kid to level 3, but perhaps not at level 1. And sometimes there was uneven effort. I think that this model of growth hopefully put an end to that practice. Is something that we as educators need never to give up on any child. So, and I put that in there because you can see that significant number of our school, the experience on growth, like I mentioned, school number 9 has the more diversity. It's the school that had the most challenge in terms of special education, English language learning, and so on and so forth. And yet they experience some significant growth that we are looking forward to see that continue. I grant you that this is only 1 year data. So I caution that President White, we hope and we are encouraging every one of our teachers and families to move forward. School number 9 also had turned the attendance around. As you know, there's an incredible association between the Spanish-speaking students and attendance. And yet, in the school number 9, that's an area that we have made significant progress, that you cannot experience the growth that you saw in that school unless you move the attendance piece around. Grade point average, as you can see, we are struggling. We are asking each one of our schools to please have a discussion with each one of our students and family around GPA. Often, this board and the superintendent administration and this community talk about college readiness. So the GPA is an indicator, a strong one actually, and the type of course that the child is taking, how well we're doing, as you can see. This is something that I think this community, the district, and everybody need to talk about, the GPA of our students, and it's something that we can, with the support that our students and teachers need, I believe that we can do better than that, and we need to do better because this number should raise a concern to all of us. As far as attendance, again, we continue to experience serious challenge on attendance. As you can see, the month of January was already a cold month. But nevertheless, let me just say to families that the majority of our students receive door-to-door transportation. And we are willing to do whatever it takes to get children in school. And one of the reasons this board that need to be congratulated provide door-to-door transportation, hardly a heavy price. We spend $63 million on transportation alone. It's because we want to improve attendance. That was the theory. So sometimes you have to, every time that I hear I need a more social worker, those are the things that I struggle. Should I provide or should we? Because I don't make this decision alone. I only have a power to recommend. But should we provide transportation door to door, or should we have more than one social worker per school? You know, again, those are challenges that we face. $63 million in transportation alone, one of the highest in the nation for a district. Our attendance, like as I said, we have right now close to 7,570 students that are not that have missed more than 10 days. Now the research is very clear. Once a child misses 10 days of school, he or she begins to experience a significant challenge in being successful in school. So when we talk about attendance, we are not talking attendance just because we like to talk about attendance, because attendance is a driver for educational success of that child. And I appreciate Commissioner Power and many members of the community and the district, some of you which are in the audience, went door to door today. And one piece that I learned that we need to still struggling with data, what I would call it today, data integrity. That is that we had too many of our students that I visited a mom today that the kid had been gone for 40 days. She has told our school that she's no longer in the district. We send, according to this mom, send the paper to the school where that child is, and we're still showing her in that number. So I just want to be honest with you, because also I was at Northeast, Northwest, and I had a conversation with a teacher there, and I'm under the illusion that this thing has been taken care of, and we still have work to do. I'm asking this community and the school community, central office, and the school level to please, I don't need to go into a place where the child have been gone for that long, and the people that I'm asking, like Commissioner Power, that went to school with me today. So we need to make sure that we resolve this issue. So I want to move on now to better news. We had a very, if you can move to the pre-K, so I'm jumping. The pre-K, they have a forum in here, which was great. A lot of information for families. 108 families came, and also many of you, thank you to everyone in the district, pretty much from the school to central office were involved. 60 students registered for kindergarten. We want to make sure that we are going to be sending a message that we can continue to experience the significant number of students that register in this district the week before or the day before, the day after school began. I'm asking each one of you to, in your churches or anywhere, that if it's a child that is a school agent that need to come to be registered, to do it early and often so that we can have the service in place that they need. We had no time to lose, so we are going to continue to, on that effort, asking family to please register early. We also registered 28 families for pre-K. As you know, Rochester is very fortunate because we are going to be able to expand, hopefully, our pre-K program for every family. So thank you, President White and Commissioner, for allowing me to do this brief presentation.
Any questions, anybody?
Yes, President White. Sure. President White and I were at McDonald's, Mr. Superintendent, probably a month ago, where we met a student who works for the McDonald's at Upper Falls Boulevard and Clinton Avenue. And this young student, had been out of school for long term, and it was due to the fact that there was a lot of violence in the school, and she did not want to be a part of it. And so I know that your efforts, you are finding out the kinds of reasons why our students don't want to go to school. But as you know from the data that you receive, they're just not coming to school, just not to come to school. Many of them are not. There are issues that are at home. And then the question becomes, we know that our students are absent. And so what are we going to do in order to, well, first of all, make it appealing for them to come, show our students that we care, and then the question becomes, is it our infrastructure that gets in the way of our students coming to school? And also, you know, other resources that may be getting in the way. Is there low teacher expectation? You know, not feeling that they're cared for. As I mentioned when I introduced Capri, this is difficult work. And people who work in this district have to understand that. And our infrastructure and our processes have to be such that we are able to be sensitive to the needs of the students in our district. And so I would just offer that to you, Mr. Superintendent, because it's one thing to go out and try to get them in. It's another thing totally to make sure that we retain those students and that we increase it even more. And so I would offer that as under advisement for you.
Let me suggest that you are so right. You can't just tell a kid come to school, and you saw that young lady, extraordinary student who is just going to graduate, and she mentioned the support of a social worker. One of the challenges that we have, and we're going to have to make sure that our school have those kind of services available, not just a social worker, but also a sport team to engage our students. We do know that when kids are engaged in various activities and get all the support, that's a very preventive measure. I have said to you before that one of the saddest things for me is to say to you that our students have less opportunity to be in a sport team than they had in 1990 or 1980, or to take an art or music class, or to be in a play, or to be in a drama. I think that there was a lot of learning for each one of us tonight when you saw the youngster being engaged in the Jeopardy competing. Those youngsters, you can see. Now, those are the kind of opportunity that I think as a board and as a superintendent, we need to struggle to provide to our kids. And that's why I say that the staff is working so hard. Because even though we have a $42 million budget gap, you're going to see us in terms of realigning our priority. Now, the challenge is, and we're going to have to work hard, because how do you close the gap and add essential services? I think that in the past 2 years, we have and actually I give myself an A+, and I give to you an A+ in this regard, that we have been able to close the gap and add more services. Not enough, not to declare victory, but we had changed the trajectory of the past, and every time we had a gap, we cut service. That was the modality or the approach. Now we are saying we are going to close the gap and look for ways in which you can provide more services, but that's going to require the cooperation of the unions. And it's going to require the cooperation of every adult. You're going to see in the budget that we're going to have to spend less on cash out vacation time. Now, you're going to have to make that decision. And and I do believe, by the way, that when you have inefficiency in the system, if you're paying so much for overtime and vacation time, we're going to have to introduce some efficiency. Now, I have been working extremely hard to make sure that we don't do business as usual. And every one of us, every union, every adult, everyone in my cabinet, and from the classroom to the superintendent room, if you will, we're going to have to revisit our practice. By the way, at the same time that we support the adults that work here. Not talking about austerity for adults, just talking about a balance in which we are struggling to make sure that we have essential service. Again, you might see that we are going to have more service for students. We cannot win this, including attendance, unless we improve opportunities for our students on the early experience in our schools. Excellent question.
And just one other thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity, Mr. Superintendent, to just, in light of the work that's going on at School 9, to recognize my staff at Baden Street Settlement, who works as one of the partners with School 9 over there, and the work that they do over there. It's the same thing that I was talking about with School Without Walls. You know, we get a lot of the students there who've got a lot of issues at home. We've got a high special education population over at School 9. And the staff there, under the leadership of Pam Jackson-Yelder, does an amazing job helping to support School 9. And I'm sure they have other partners, but, you know, it's well, they say it's an old frog that don't toot his own horn. And so I just want to say congratulations to the staff and the activities department at Baden Community Center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the superintendent's report?
I just want to add regarding the Tennessee Blitz today, that we had a guest, Tony Masucci, the county legislator from Albany 26. Being elected officials, we gravitated towards each other, and we did our Tennessee Blitz together. One of our visits these were to students in School 22 in the Northeast Zone, and one of our visits was to a house on Sherwood, which is in the 19th Ward. And the question couldn't help but come up, why is a child way down in the South, of course he doesn't know anything about our zones, but why is a kindergartner in the South Zone going to School 22? And I did not have an answer for him, because this is the issue that I've been struggling with for years in terms of the faithful implementation of our school choice system. And at the same time, we have parents, talking about parents and community members saying we want neighborhood schools, and yet we continue to support these aberrations of and oh, by the way, this kindergartner hasn't been showing up to school, which means a bus has been stopping at their door
something like 37 times this year, and nobody got on. And this is the consumption of our resources that is preventing us from delivering the special kinds of services that we could be delivering in our classrooms.
Yeah, just to Commissioner Powell's comment, just taking that example, isn't there a way in which we could have stopped that a long time ago?
My answer is yes, but
And so,
it's a situation that has to be pursued through the placement office, has to be investigated as to why that was allowed to happen in the first instance, yes.
But I think your question is so important that having struggling with, and as you know, we have engaged an expert in looking at that. But if you send me that situation in an email, I think we owe you an answer to why that child is. In the past, I have examined that situation, and it happened that the parents have moved. They might have started so they move from one place to the next. But that's, again, you deserve a concrete answer to why that is.
but that speaks to an opportunity to improve our systems.
Correct.
Okay.
Quick, just one quick thing. Just in regards to the pre-K and kindergarten registration fair. So 2 months ago, I was absolutely livid with the response of our schools in terms of kindergarten. I took my son, Rafa, and my daughter, Karina, to the registration fair, and they had so much fun. They were so excited to go to school. There was face painting. Everyone was so spirited. It was just such a great first impression for them, where they were so excited. And Rafa asked me, he goes, "So can I go to school here, like in Central Office?" Because he had already gone to visit all of the other schools, but he said, "There's face painting here. I want to come here." So it was just fantastic. And I was able to go to all of the schools and bring Rafa with me. They were great. They were wonderful. And I'm going to be taking my paperwork in either tomorrow or Saturday, because they're open on Saturday. So it started rough, but I think that this pre-K and kindergarten registration fair is exactly what we need to maintain, as well as be able to have performances throughout it. I mean, imagine you have music. I mean, it could be a great spirited event as well. So I just want to commend you and your staff, because you took a bad situation, turned it around, and Rafa's excited to go to kindergarten. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thank you. Your criticism are healthy, and that's an example of what you say, that you experienced some, not the best experience, even being everybody, not just a board member, but every parent to have a good experience when they knock on our door. And I appreciate that you brought it to our attention, and hopefully it's a learning opportunity for the entire system, not just for central office. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to standing committee reports.
These include 3 resolutions that are budget amendment resolutions. Obviously, special aid grants, it's part of the usual cycle that the budget that we adopt in the spring grows as federal dollars come to us and grants are approved. So now we're up over $750 million, which is significantly more than what we approved last spring. And so both expenses and revenues are reflected in these and the budget recommendations, and they reflect actual new dollars coming in. We approved the January financial reports, and I move at this time that the board receive those reports.
So moved. Second. All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you. In addition to the budget resolutions, which are 499 through 402, we covered I'm sorry, I said 499 through 502. We have educational facilities resolutions, mostly final payments are resolutions 503 through 506. And there was a resolution 507 for professional services that the committee did not have the details for when we met on Thursday last week, or 2 weeks ago. And when we did get the details, we weren't able to meet, but by informal consensus, we determined that this resolution should come before the board, as it is in our packets, without committee recommendation, because we did not discuss it during committee. We might have attached a recommendation had we had either up or down, had we had more time to really fully vet this resolution. It's for lobbyists for the facilities modernization program. It's the concern that we might be more familiar with as Scott Gaddy is the lobbyist. So when we get to that part of the resolution packet, we can discuss it and the merits of either approving or tabling that for further discussion, as the case might be.
That's number 507.
I believe so. The next Finance Committee meeting will be Thursday, March 20th, and I believe that concludes my Finance Committee report. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Excellence in Student Achievement Committee met on Tuesday, February 11th. Mike, okay. Beverly Burrell Moore, Deputy Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, provided a presentation of school counseling and guidance services overview. So just some key points of the presentation included how counselors serve our students, and I won't go through all of them. And also a presentation including guidance levels of support services. I will tell you that our conversation morphed into a conversation about school social workers, which you heard much about today. Obviously, that is a topic that is very much interest to the committee, and we look forward to further conversations about the status of and even increasing school social workers throughout the budget process, as long as there is a way to do that while at the same time meeting all the other needs that we have as a district. We have a packed agenda of other things that we want to continue to discuss this year. Among them, some of the areas of programs that have worked effectively, SAS update, and many more things. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 11th, 2014.
Not February.
March. I got the wrong date here. That's right. March. Is it March 11th? I think. Yes. Well, it will be following the CIGR committee meeting. So whenever CIGR meeting is over, we'll meet after that meeting ends. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Commissioner Elliott.
Thank you, President White. Just want to take a point of personal privilege and to discuss some of the other things I've been involved in. I attended the New York State Black and Puerto Rican and Asian Caucus this month, and I'm happy to announce that I received the 2014 Arthur O. Eve Award for Public Service in Higher Education. So I just wanted to thank you. It was a great honor. I don't know if those of you who may know the Honorable Arthur Eve, who was an assemblyman from Buffalo. Arthur, Assemblyman Eve, was a strong supporter of the financial aid like TAP
HEOP.
and other state, HEOP, BEOG, EOP. Those of us who were recipients of that funding owe the Honorable O. Eve a debt of gratitude. So I appreciate receiving that award in his honor. I also had a visit over at Food Services on Friday, so we're looking to continue to improve the work that's going on over in Food Services. And also another proud moment, I just have to share this. I received this Leaders Activities Handbook, MyRA. I don't know if anybody else received one of this, but in this study guide, Ramon Rodriguez actually used a statement that I had written for the 2005 campaign, where the question was asked, what is your biggest trial you've endured in your personal life, and how has that experience contributed to the person you are today? So this goes back in 2005, and he took some of the language that I provided and put it in a part of the leadership book. So I also just wanted to share that with you as well. And lastly, I've spoken through email with President White about reviewing the strategic plan that was developed 2008 through 2013, and to see where we are with it, where we're going, to have a work session to review that plan, and that's going to be coming. A date is to be determined with regard to that. But I think that we need to take a look at where we've been and where we're going. You know, if we hit the mark on that plan, and what do we need to do in order to get every child in this district to graduate. So that concludes my points of personal privilege. And then lastly, for the month of February, the CIGR committee did not meet, but we will meet on March 11th, and we've got a huge agenda for that meeting. Thank you, President Evans. Sure. President White, excuse me. Sure.
Yeah, I just want to continue the celebration. Commissioner Elliott, Vice President Elliott, is going to receive an award from the New York State School Board Association for her participation and devotion to self-development.
Oh, wow.
Lifelong learner, and he has been recognized again for participating on professional development, engaging in activity that making a great board member, again from New York State School Board Association.
Hey, President. No speech.
Hey, I can read.
Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you. I don't have any awards to announce tonight.
Yet.
But congratulations, guys. I mean, it's, you know, this job is hard, right? And so anytime somebody says thank you or recognizes, you know, that's a good thing, right?
Exactly.
God knows we get all the other stuff. But our policy committee met on February 13th, and we went through several of our policies: parent and family engagement, school-based policy, school-based planning policy. Our MAP program, we're taking a look at that as well, and a revision of the acceptable use of district network policy. The committee has been working with a district-wide parent advisory council since July 2013 to develop amendments to the existing parent and family engagement policy to address parents' concerns. The committee really wanted to work with the PAC to get their input and their concerns about our parent engagement policy. And I think it was a good example of how it works when boards and committees really reach out to other entities to support, in this case, our policy work. So, and I really want to thank them, Akita, for her work and taking the time to review the information and to get back to us. I think it just makes our policy that much more stronger. The committee unanimously approved the proposed revisions. However, there are some issues that have cropped up since then that we want to take. I think we're all on the same page. I think we just need to get just a better understanding of what it is that we're intending to do with this. And so we're making a request that the policy, although we've advanced it to the full board, that the policy be remanded back to committee for additional conversation, so we make sure that we cover all of the bases of any kind of potential conflict or resolution of tweaking it. So that's something we'll be asking the board to do. Also considered in our meeting was the school-based planning policy. As you know, this is a huge policy. It involves a humongous number of people, and a cross-functional team was crafted and proposed amendments to this policy. The team was comprised of representatives from the Parent Advisory Council and various bargaining units. Input was also obtained from Deputy Superintendent of Teaching and Learning Beverly Burrell Moore to integrate the Common Core into the policy, and the members of the policy committee have voted unanimously to advance that proposal to you tonight as an informational item. And thank the staff for putting that together. It's a lot of work, but I think that again is another example of how do you strengthen a current policy, bringing it up to date, tweaking it wherever it needs to be tweaked. Let's see, and finally, the policy committee has considered proposed changes to the acceptable use of the district network policy to improve accountability and establish internal conflicts in the course of conducting investigations of districts and district employees. Specifically, the policy proposal would require approval of two different and independent administrators in the district, general counsel and auditor general, to allow review of an employee's email messages. I'm reading this because I want to be very clear about this. The members of the committee voted unanimously to advance this proposal to the full board for this evening as an informational item. And our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, March 20th. You're all invited if you want to have some fun. And it will be following the Finance and Board Governance Committee meetings. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Campos?
Yep. We met on Thursday, February 13th. We discussed an upcoming retreat and a resolution proposed by President White that would link the board president's salary to student outcomes and operational efficiency of the district. In terms of the retreat, we have it designed. It's basically trying to get everyone's schedules calibrated, which has been a disaster. No, it's been like a nightmare. It is. It's hard to get that many people together in a room together.
Food.
That doesn't work either. It's just we're all busy people, and that's what it comes down to. So we're going to continue to work on it. I know that we had all said, the majority of the people said, based on the survey, that they preferred doing it during the day and doing 4 to 8. I might go back to a Saturday because those were easier to schedule. So it's not ideal and it's not what the majority wanted, but it's just not feasible in getting us together. So that might be our next route. So we'll continue to move that forward. And then in terms of President White's proposal, it was, we've all seen the email where his salary, part of his salary would be tied to some key performance indicators and goals for student and district performance. And let's see here. So basically where we were with that, we said that we would be interested to see what would be examples of key performance indicators that he would propose. We felt like we didn't feel comfortable putting those for him. We wanted to hear from President White what those might be in order to consider them. In March, we're going to be speaking with Vice President Elliott in terms of the Personnel Committee, and we are officially done as well with our evaluation process for our staff as well as our superintendent. And I just want to thank you all for we got it all done. We got it done on time. And so that's always important, and I'm always glad to report that. And our next committee meeting is scheduled for Thursday, March 20th, following Finance and Policy.
Thank you.
And that concludes my report.
Thank
And
you.
thank you again for everything with the kindergarten registration process. I can't say it enough. It was great.
The audit committee was not scheduled and did not meet this past month. Our next scheduled meeting is March 11th, along with those other committee meetings. We meet at 5:30, so I guess we're going to have to be brief to allow the other committee meetings to go. But March 11th at 5:30. May I have permission to make a very brief report on the Ad Hoc Common Core
Sure.
Committee?
Yep.
Okay. The Board Ad Hoc Common Core State Standards Implementation Committee was formed in August 2013 with support from President Evans and with ongoing professional support from Shanae Lee. The committee meets monthly and includes community members, academic experts, parents, community advocates, and district educators, both at administrative levels and classroom teaching levels. And from the sounds of what I heard about the youth council meeting yesterday, it sounds like we really need to include some students, which has always been a welcome idea, but I understand there's some real interest in addressing Common Core implementation among our students, so they would be welcome additions. Per President White's request, I'm submitting for your review and discussion a summary of interim recommendations from the committee. We anticipate submitting a full report and final recommendations in the fall of 2014. And those interim recommendations are in very brief summary form, and the board clerk has them for each of you. And then just a very brief point of personal privilege. I was unable to attend the youth council meeting yesterday, but I asked my family to attend and got back really impressive reports. So thank you, President White, for your leadership on this, and I really look forward to attending the community forum next Tuesday at the Frederick Douglass Resource Center. So thank you for that.
I have an update on that when I give my report, but our student rep is not here. Sophie's not here. I didn't see her. So why don't we get a report from PAC? I understand that Vicki Robertson is going to give it because Makita is not available tonight. Vicki?
Hello, yes. Makita's not able to be here with us tonight. Her voice isn't working. So, and it definitely didn't make sense to come out in the cold. So I am going to read her report, which those of you who know me know that I usually ad-lib when I'm doing this, so I will try not to do that too much. And we'll be reading her report. The RCSD Parent Advisory Council is an organization of parent volunteers responsible for sharing, promoting, and communicating information between parents and the district offices. At present, the council consists of 11 voting parents, with Makita Salone serving as chair and myself, Victoria Robertson, as vice chair. The council has a maximum of 23 seats available and is actively recruiting parents to join the council. Members of the council sit on many of the district's committees to include Finance and Resource Allocation Committee, Community and Intergovernmental Relations Committee, Policy Committee, and Executive School-Based Planning. Our goal is to ensure parent representation on all committees and welcomes the opportunity to work with the board and the district to ensure this goal is met. The council meets on the second Monday of each month to conduct the business of the group. In addition, the council will hold informational meetings on the fourth Monday of every other month to inform parents of issues that are relevant to them. Council members also attend the monthly superintendent's coffee and conversation sessions and interact with parents at all schools to have better understanding of their concerns. So, PAC recent activity. The members of PAC have been extremely busy. The superintendent attended our last business meeting on February 10th to discuss the career and technical education report findings and get our feedback. We have concerns about the report and look forward to timely action from the superintendent and board. Board Commissioners Powell, Adams, and White also attended our last business meeting. We discussed a variety of topics. For example, the visitor policy at our schools, parent report card, RCSD policies, master schedule, and changing the culture in the district. PAC co-hosted 3 budget sessions with Bill Ansbro and his team and OPE. The finance team attended our informational meetings in January and February. There also was an additional budget meeting in February at Wilson Foundation. At our last informational meeting, we also invited all parent leaders. This allowed for parent leaders to meet PAC and vice versa. It was kind of like you reaching out to PAC for the policy committee. We were reaching out to the other parent leaders. The leaders were able to share their best practices for recruiting, parent engagement, and fundraising. PAC also used this event to recruit parents to serve on the council. We had as many as 7 parent leaders express interest and take applications. So I'm hoping next time someone reads this, we're going to have more than 11 members. Now I lost my place again. PAC members served on President White's ad hoc committees. We are excited to hear the feedback and learn more. PAC members George Moses and Makita Salone are also a part of the planning committee for the 40th annual Title I event, which will be held in May 2014. We're going back to the beach. PAC members were asked to make recommendations to the parent engagement and involvement policy. We have been working on our recommendations since this past summer and attending policy committees and meetings almost monthly to discuss them. We are pleased that the policy committee asked us to be part of this process. This month, the recommendations were voted 3-0 to move the next phase in the process. Unfortunately, the item was removed from the agenda tonight. The item was removed because some board members do not agree with our recommendations of a mandatory audit every 3 years. We added the recommendation because Policy 1900R clearly states that the superintendent is to provide an annual assessment of the parent engagement policy by July of each year. When we first began this process and asked to receive the previous year's assessments, they did not exist. We believe if parent engagement is important to the district, then its adherence to the policy should have a mandatory audit. While we understand the opposition of placing such a request in the policy, we are concerned at how this issue has been handled. While President White expressed his concern as the president of the board and the desire to do the right thing by allowing all parties to be heard, I also must do the same as president of the council and on behalf of parents. PAC did not only approve our recommendations, but the members of the ad hoc parent engagement committee agreed as well. There has been plenty of opportunity to provide separate language, but it was not received until after the vote at the policy meeting. Any concerns regarding our recommendations should have been raised in the monthly meetings. Emails explaining one's position on the topic without a reply from PAC does not mean that we agree with the position. In addition, when I advised that I must stand by my members and parents, it does not mean that we still want to see alternate language. Although we do not agree with the decision, we look forward to working with the policy committee and board members for a solution that is agreeable to all parties. And my comment is, we'll work it out. Parent group report. Schools were required to have a functioning parent group and school-based planning team by October 15th. According to the latest OPE report, currently 100% of our schools are in compliance for having the minimum required parents on the school-based planning team.
You guys can applaud for that.
Yeah,
That's
this
good
is
news.
good. This is good. 90% are in compliance for having a functional parent group. Functional parent groups defined as having at least 2 of the following executive team members in place, starting with the president and another member of the executive team in place, either the vice president, secretary, treasurer, and at least 2 additional and working in conjunction with the school administration team. While the number of schools in compliance are commendable, especially when compared to where we were this time last year, however, we are over 120 days past the deadline. So it took us 120 days to get here. And the following schools still are not in compliance for having a functional parent group. Those schools are 28, 36, Robert Brown, and Rochester STEM. We are finally 100% compliant when it comes to school-based planning teams, but it has taken us over 4 months to do so. We have received numerous reports that many schools are not truly in compliance of having the required number of parents for either the school-based planning team or parent group. Once this information is received, it's provided to OPE for confirmation. OPE has been very responsive and instrumental in ensuring that parents are truly represented. Recently, I received the names of parents from the grant department for the current SIF grants, and neither school had the required number of parents to be involved in the grant process. We are very concerned that parents are not involved in the governance of their schools. The names of parents are provided to the Office of Parent Engagement. However, it is each school's responsibility to ensure that they stay compliant. Okay. Upcoming events. The ad hoc committee forum, March 4th at Community Forum. We'll definitely have a bunch of PAC members there. The annual school-based planning team training, where we hope to get at some of that parents actually being involved, is hosted by the Executive School-Based Steering Team. Executive School-Based Steering Committee is going to be on March 13th at the World of Inquiry. There'll be invitations going out to all the school-based planning teams very soon. And the 40th annual Title I parent event, the RCSD Family Affair at the Park at Charlotte Beach, will be on May 17th, 2014, from 11 to 4 o'clock. And the last upcoming event is the Latino Parents Conference on June 14th, 2014.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roberts. All right, one more report, and then we'll be done with this section of our agenda, and that is my report. I'll keep it very brief. There's a lot that's been happening, but the most important thing that I can share with you is that we, as you know, the board established special committees probably about 2 months ago, and they centered around 4 important issues or obstacles for the district's success: school and community safety, concentrated poverty, student achievement, and parental engagement. The acknowledgement was that if we can make some inroads into these particular areas, we will be more successful as a district. The committees were impaneled as a result of suggestions by my colleagues, and those folks have been meeting daily almost, and I must say that they would not be able to be as organized as they were it not for our staff, and we don't thank them enough, and these folks have really sort of turned up the heat in terms of their own work for this district. And so on behalf of the board, I want to thank Shanae, Jackie, Deborah, and Kim. They literally, you can come into this building at night, and while everybody else, I see Chuck every now and then, while everybody else is gone or at meetings, these employees are still here working on our behalf. And literally, I'll send an email in the middle of the night or early in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and Shanae will answer. So I don't think we can thank them enough for their good hard work, and their commitment to this district is evident through the special committees. We had, as you all may know, a very successful student town meeting. They literally had the barriers up, and at the beginning they had to open up the walls because we had so many young people here. It was really a blessing to see that, and these kids were serious. They had serious comment and serious concern that they were able to articulate. And while we were very proud of these young folks for the History Bowl, I think if you all saw these young people the other night, you would have been, last night, you would have been very proud. We are following it up, that is these recommendations with a town meeting for the adults. And in fact, at one point last night, a couple of adults tried to speak up, and Sophie said, hold on now, this event is for young people. And it was a very powerful moment, and that adult who had been walking through this building earlier on today and had a lot of grievances and concerns, she shut up. She sat down and she shut up. And I thought to myself, boy, I ought to take Sophie around with me a little bit more. But so our next meeting is March the 4th. That will be for the adults or anybody else for that matter. I regret to inform you, though, the location has changed. We were going to have it at the Frederick Douglass Resource Center. They're having some technical issues with respect to their heat. And the last thing that we want to do is get over there on March the 4th at 6 o'clock and have to turn people away because the heat wasn't on. So it is going to be here. So tell your friends, your family, that the location has changed, regrettably. We're not going to be at the Frederick Douglass Resource Center. And then the other thing that I announced last night was the Board of Education has its own Twitter page now. Our Twitter handle, I think is what you call it. What's that? What feed? See, I don't even know what to call it. But if you want to get to it, it's RCSD_BOE. RCSD_BOE, and that will get you to our Twitter feed. Thank you, Mr. Powell. All right, that concludes my report.
Just a point of personal privilege. Mr. Superintendent, I just want to say about Principal Annabelle Solo was in the back when the bowl was going on, and he was just shameless in support of his students. I mean, he even, jabbed Ray Giamatti back there, for Syracuse. I guess the loss of Syracuse made. So I just want to say he was shameless, and I understand he was doing it, for his students, but he was a beast back there. I just want you to know, but congratulations to the East High School team that won it, and he was really into it, shamelessly. He was really into it, Mrs. Superintendent.
Well, I got to tell you, since you mentioned him, he's like
a beast.
No, he's all over the place. We had the Black Male Achievement. Jerome, are you still here? the thing a weekend or two
You went
ago,
home to go to bed.
and he was here and he gave a presentation. He was here last night. I'm talking about your Annabelle. He was here last night at the student forum. He's like the Joe Roback of principals. He's like all over the place. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He's literally all over the place. That's a compliment to both guys, by the way. All right, so now we got to move on to the consideration of resolutions. Wow. Right? And let's first talk about resolutions 471 to 492, human capital initiatives. Can I get a motion to discuss those resolutions?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second? All right. Any discussion?
Yes, President White.
Sure.
With regard to 471 and 472, my concern is, do these employees have urban experience? And are we making sure that the people that we hire come in our district with urban experience?
Just a point of order, we're talking about 471 through
492.
Oh, so just to amend that motion that I made, 472 through 492, because 471 we're going to talk about in executive session because we're granting tenure.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks.
So we can get answers to that urban experience question when you.
Well, it also refers to, she can answer both of them right here in terms of urban experience, because 472 is a part of it as well.
Right.
Well, 471 are tenure, so they have urban experience here as of now. But to the extent that we have qualified applicants that have urban experience, we are honoring the board's preference in the policy to hire individuals with urban experience. Many of these folks that are here had already been employees of the district and are going up to full time. If you want me to provide information about any particular
I'd like to know also how many of the employees who are tenured are African American?
I would have to get that information to you. I don't know off the top of my head. I have not met these people.
All right.
So.
Any other questions? Mr. Adams?
Yes, I would like to request that 475 also be considered in executive session.
All right, so you have some questions related to that employee?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have another question. 478 is a part of this as well, correct? What's the difference between a cleaner assistant, and custodial engineer? What are the requirements for a person receiving the qualifications for custodial engineer? Here's my concern too, that, and if you could check this out, how many of those custodial engineers are white versus the cleaners and assistants, and how many of those are white, and how many are black?
I can give a breakdown.
All right, because we tend to put a lot of low-level people in these, a lot of African Americans in the low-level positions, and my concern is that we got a lot of the white folk in these higher-ranking positions, and that's a concern of mine.
If I'd be certainly, I know that we'll be meeting with the governance committee. HCI will be meeting with the governance committee in March. I can give that by title.
No. That is because I don't want to discuss that at the governance
Well, I
meeting.
just can give you a report at that point, not just in paper if you want. So.
I'd like it before then.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so here's what we got to do. 471 is going to be an executive session, so Commissioner Evans, do you want to amend your motion to discuss, we were actually discussing 472 to 492, and we're not going to vote on 475. Is that right, Mary? What's that? She said 475.
And I do have a question about 478.
All right, go ahead.
And we could perhaps answer this in the session. My concern is that the custodial engineer that is listed here, is he a relative of another person? And I'll ask you about that. Okay, in executive session.
Which one is that?
478.
478, okay. So, all right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to vote now, unless there's any further discussion, on resolutions 472 to 492, excluding resolutions 475 and 478. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition?
I think I've got 475. I'm voting no on that.
Well, we're going to discuss
Oh,
that in
that's
executive
okay.
session.
All right.
All right. So we have yet to vote on 475, 471, and 478. All right? And we'll do that in executive session, or we'll discuss them in executive session. All right, so let's go on to resolutions 493 to 498.
So moved, Mr. President.
Any second? Any discussion? I have to abstain from 498. That's the only thing.
And Mr. President, I have to abstain from 493.
All right.
I have some discussion on 493.
Sure.
I had asked a number of questions regarding the extra pay resolutions involving continued development of online, smart notebooks and online technology for implementation of Common Core. And I did get detailed responses on a very short time frame, and I do appreciate the responses that were received. But I do continue to have serious concerns regarding English language learners and bilingual materials and pedagogy for K through 2 with the adaptation of core knowledge materials that are on Engage New York and that are being translated through, I'm sure, what's very intensive hard work by bilingual teachers and by instructional technology coaches and so on. My concern is that my question was, a couple of questions, is do our high-level leadership of English language learning experts, our executive directors, do they approve of this approach of translating core knowledge incorporated domains onto smart notebooks as excellent bilingual and ELL pedagogy? I'm asking for, and I did receive detailed responses describing the procedures that are being undertaken to approach English language learners, but I did not get an affirmation that this is excellent teaching and that this is excellent materials for our English language learners. And so I'm really looking for that affirmation from our leadership in terms of our ESL, bilingual, LOT educators, our educational leaders. So I don't know if that's possible tonight, but that's something that I think we as a board should look for. We should look for that affirmation from our leadership. And if it can't be done tonight, I think it should be a question that should be examined along with other concerns about bilingual education and even the broader scope of Latino leadership concerns.
Are we just doing this because a grant requires it, or?
No.
Commissioner Adams, thank you. I would ask that you give us some time to give you a clear answer. I can tell you that in talking with the acting director of bilingual education, we are putting in questions of our publishers so that when we look at materials that we're asking if they are available in Spanish. For other languages, it is a little more different, a little more difficult. I can tell you that we have a contract with, the names just escape me, to make sure that we do have those materials. But if you could give us some time, we'll give you more, more
actually
clarity.
Getting to
Yes,
that
sir.
specific point, one of my questions was, do we have Spanish text for K through 2 in Spanish as opposed to our staff translating them? And if we do, to what extent? Is it what's the proportion? Like, do we have 75% of the text, are they available in the language rather than as translations from our staff? And that can wait also.
Okay.
But I think that's one thing, is it's a big burden on our bilingual teachers if they have to do the
Absolutely.
translations, day by day or module by module or whatever the case may be. And also, I know nothing, but I know that there is a concern from the experts regarding translation.
And how accurate they
and
are.
whether it's
right,
accurate,
right,
whether
right.
it is a matched level in terms
Right.
of, does it make the material more difficult?
Right.
And there's concerns about the authenticity and so on. So I
Excuse
I
me,
just wanna raise
Snor. The translation of materials is a long-standing thing. It's not new to Common Core. But given that the standards I knew, there are now many vendors that are producing material that are constantly coming out. I almost get stuff daily. We are proceeding cautiously that you don't buy material for something that just because you want to rush through. And, we had a conversation with the superintendent of the other district, and also the commissioner was part of that discussion, in which, you know, again, it's a matter of concern. Anytime you bring a new curriculum or standards, so there are changes. So this is something that is why I will submit to you that in this district, part of the challenges I mentioned to you, we have 6 curriculum in 12 years. So, and every time you change it, it's no different than the Rochester curriculum. You needed to translate, and you know, because the original form was in English. But Mrs. Moore and her department, we will, paying close attention, and we will give you that information. First, controversy. There's always will be and have been controversies around curriculum, as far as I know. There's not like the core knowledge of being around for 30 years. Actually, people used to buy the Barnes & Noble. I used to see them. I used to hang around sometime there, and people would buy them, all that we rejected. But we can definitely provide you with that information later.
As well as we're working with the Council of Great City Schools and exchanging information about what publishers are providing us with multilingual versions of text.
Right. So, I guess my bottom line with this discussion is that I would like to see our academic leadership, the people who are the true experts in bilingual education, English language learning, teaching, put their stamp of approval. And you know, I mean, they are our leaders in this area. So I would like to see them comfortable, especially in the current atmosphere of many, many vendors trying to sell things, and you know, many different approaches coming quickly. You know, it's important that we use our leadership and our expertise. So that's my request. And then in terms of another part of this resolution, I also appreciate the description of the work that has been being done by the instructional technology coaches that are deployed from central office out to the schools. I in no way want to imply that I don't recognize the work that they're doing, that they're working very hard, and that they ought to be paid for their work. But my concern is, and I think I indicated it in my question, is that there are certain, because we're in such an atmosphere of scarcity, and we heard the discussion about the police for social workers, we heard people talking about budget cuts. We're in an atmosphere where the budget has to be balanced and we have to make priorities. And one of my commitments is, or one of my judgment calls is that when we have educators who are on assignment who are not involved in direct instruction, I cannot justify extra pay resolutions for that class of people. And I'll go back to some of my comments from the last board meeting that central deployment of these many educators, dozens and dozens of coaches and educators, ought to carry with it the efficiency factor, because that is part of centralizing. That's part of the justification for centralizing and deploying. So that's just my position, that I can't support extra pay for coaches that are deployed centrally. In the atmosphere, I would if we had unlimited resources.
Mr. Superintendent, one question I have in reference to that I saw in the additional pay around Common Core, where are we in light of the fact that it's being delayed? How are we approaching the delay, and the first class being graduated in 2022? Are we slowing down, or what are we doing, given what the regions and the governor and everyone has said around delaying Common Core? What's the status of our work?
The delay is only applicable to the exams, but the curriculum and the work goes on. And actually, I think it's a wise idea and it's only for the high school level that we're talking about delaying the exam, the class that is entering school in 2018. So that would be the first class, and that would be required to pass, the English language, art, and the math for graduation.
When was when was the original first graduating class to graduate?
They didn't. We're supposed to. I mean, they have been debated. We began those assessments even this year. The district would choose the
So we're continuing to move on at the same pace that we were.
Again, not to confuse, there was no delay as the standards is concerned. The district are expected to continue to work at those. And of course, there's another area that the governor has a commission and also the legislature can talk about that. We don't know what other change come out of this. Up to the legislature and both the governor taking action around delaying. There are those that have called for a moratorium on everything for 3 years, but that nothing have been acted.
Okay.
To this point in regard to the standards.
All right, thank you.
All right, there being no further questions, how do you guys vote on resolutions 493 to 498? All those in favor? Aye. Madam Clerk, record Commissioner Evans and I's abstaining from 498. And Commissioner Elliott, do you want to record some no's?
Yeah, no on all of them.
And I have been,
Commissioner Adams?
no on 493.
All right, you got that? 493 for Commissioner Adams. A no.
Point of information, did all of them ultimately pass with all this mishmash?
Yes. Yeah, they would have.
I can't tell.
Yeah, if you got it. Yeah, 5. Yep. Okay, let's move on to resolutions 499 to 502. Those are budget resolutions. Can I get a motion to discuss those?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Discussion?
President White, question to the superintendent. We started off with the budget of a certain amount, and then now it's increased probably around 37 million over that. And my question is there a way in which we can project better than what we've done, or is that the wrong question to ask?
It is.
How do we start off with the 734 million and then it goes up to 771?
It's an excellent question because our grant department and our people have been so effective. Like, for example, we received $5.5 million for universal pre-K full day. So that account for that. So that is a great news that you were there with me and President White when we celebrated. So in a district like this and in this environment, we rely about right now over $100 million in grants that we get. And sometimes you get them in August. And also the fiscal year, I sometimes want to align the federal and the state. And of course, the primary driver of our budget is the state. But we get federal and we get foundation grants. Like, for example, the Ford Foundation is open to help us with the implementation of the CTE. So if they award us a grant, you might see more dollar being added to the budget, which is a good thing.
So most of this 37 million approximately is in grants?
Grants, and I just gave you an example that the 5.
Yeah, that's not grant though. That's just money from. Is that considered a grant?
It is considered. It's a competitor grant.
Okay.
It's, again, credit to the staff. Bill is a master of all trade because this was such a high level. See, I don't think that we have given credit to the work that was done to make sure that this district secured that grant and also to execute. And you have to put a team of people, which Bill and the early child education folks and Beverly Burrell Moore, facility, you name it, were engaged. Actually, the Rochester City School District got the most money than any other district, and the reason was because of the ability of our people to secure that. But Bill might want to add to that as well.
I'll just, Commissioner Elliott, we're deliberately extra transparent. We provide a very detailed PowerPoint to the Finance Committee each time we do this. So I think what I'll do is I'll share those with you, and so you'll see step by step, where those adjustments have been made. But with the superintendent's exactly right that it is the grant funding that's the big drivers, and the most recent one that's actually before you now is that UPK funding. that we implemented February 3rd. That's the largest portion of this budget amendment that's before you now.
All right, thank you.
Any other further discussion? Okay, how do you guys vote on resolutions 499 to 502?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's move on to resolutions, educational facilities 503 to 506.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Commissioner Powell seconded. Discussion?
Yes. I did receive change orders about these, but I didn't get an opportunity to read them. So can someone talk about why the change orders for our educational resolutions? In other words, well, one is the final payment, it seems. With regard to well, let's go to 503. There's a change order totaling $6,900. 11.2 for 57. Can someone talk to those?
Say 503.
Yeah, just give me, you know, why do we have the change orders?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We have change orders when something in the project.
Yeah, but so can you be specific about each one?
I can get you specifics on each one if you would like. If you don't have the specifics on the change orders.
And then just for 505, there is a negative $1,107.
Yep.
Can you talk to me about that, or you have to get that information as
You
well?
have to get that specific information for what they specifically are.
Yeah. Can I just can I just say, Mr. Superintendent, that can your staff be better prepared, because they know that, particularly me, I'm going to ask some questions. And so if the resolutions are coming before us, if the people who are supposed to, who the subject matter experts, if they could be at these meetings so those questions can be answered at the time of the meeting. A lot of times I think because we do have cameras, it's important that the community knows that we're asking these questions and that we get the information. Not that it goes around and, you know, we get it through an email, but that it is on record that we're asking these questions. We have to, we have a constituency out there that we're responsible to. So in the future, whatever is going to be on the resolutions, in the resolution packet, the people need to be here to be able to answer whatever questions that we may have. Thank you.
Mr. Powell.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing me, Mr. President. The resolutions in front of us are not essentially questions about the change orders. They are an approval of the final payment. The change order, in all likelihood, the various change orders that might be in play with any one of these is in all likelihood captured in the change order report that you got in January, covering the last 3-month period. These change orders happen throughout the course of a project, sometimes in the beginning, sometimes in the middle, sometimes at the end, and without looking at the binder-sized documents, which, oh, by the way, if those are the kind of questions you're going to ask, I'll bring my binder every month if you like. I can do that, and we can go through them in the minutes before our board meeting if you like. But the question here, in all final payments, is about closing out the books on a particular project. That's our mission. Whether this change happened the day after we signed the contract or the day before we finished the punch list. What's really only being asked of us is, and by the way, when we do our change order, when we approve the change order report every 3 months, we're agreeing to the change, the dollar value involved in these changes. We've already agreed to that. All we're agreeing to now in this resolution is writing the last check.
Mr. Superintendent, my request remains. Please have them to be able to respond. I know what Commissioner Powell is saying, but I know what I'm asking. Point blank.
Any further discussion?
Call the question.
All right. Can I get your vote on resolutions
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Madam Clerk, you recorded the vote. All right, let's move on to resolutions 507 through 512. I'm going to change it.
Could we take 507 as a standalone, please?
As a standalone? Sure. Again, you guys got to realize that these are written down for our convenience. We're not written in stone. We don't have to vote according. So you want to talk about 507? All right, let's just talk about 507 first. Can I get a motion to discuss 507?
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
All right, Commissioner Elliott, seconded. Discussion on 507?
Mr. President, I'd
Yep.
like to discuss the possibility of tabling this resolution. I'm not sure if we even have a language on the FMP to begin lobbying, but if we do, we have the asset of the Big Five already in Albany, already aware of the FMP, our needs in the FMP process, and already ready, willing, and able to start their lobbying efforts next week, because we have the Big Five Lobby Day next week. So I'd like to table this and give the Finance Committee a full opportunity to vet the necessity of this, and secondly, the implications of spending our money on lobbying, as is the case here.
Is there a second to your motion to table? Because a motion to table goes right to a vote.
It goes right to a vote and there's no discussion.
Is there a second? Second. All right. How do you guys vote in terms of tabling Resolution 507?
Aye.
We can do a roll call vote?
Sure. Aye.
And no, only because I thought we were going to have discussion here. So.
No.
No.
Aye.
It's not tabled. All right. So let's go back to discussing Resolution 507. Any discussion on 507?
No, Mr. President, I just, I appreciate Commissioner Powell's comment about tabling because it didn't get a chance to get through the Finance Committee, but perhaps Mr. Ansborough, who's here, can, Mr. Superintendent, through you, can provide the justification for this resolution. I noticed that you're nursing your arm. Did you put a decimal place in the wrong spot or something?
Unfortunately, no, I didn't.
He pulled an Anita, didn't he?
That's right. I stepped out for a second. I just had to get some medication starting to bother me. So the reason why I believe this is very important is for two reasons. Once the governor came out with his budget, and despite the personal income growth being at 3.1%, the increase in support that we're receiving in the foundation is only 1.3%. That leaves us in a serious situation, and thus we have a $42 million gap. So to the extent that we receive additional support in making our effort known in Albany to receive additional funds, it would provide a direct benefit to the budget that we're working on and that we're going to present to you on March 24th. The timeliness issue here is just that. You know, that April 1st is when the state will adopt their budget. So if we want to have additional support, now's the time to do it, you know, with regards to the state budget. In addition to that, it's the counsel that we were provided when Ed Lopez and I were in Albany in December and January, was that if we don't have an FMP bill introduced by early January, it's going to be a heavy lift to get it introduced and passed this session. This session is likely to end the middle of June, and so we believe it's important, I believe it's important, and the superintendent supported me, to get additional support at this time to help us with reaching consensus and then getting the bill introduced and ultimately getting the bill passed this session. The longer we wait and to get the FMP Phase 2 legislation passed, you know, there will be two implications. One is the cost will go up. The second implication is that, you know, there will be delay in our students receiving the additional benefit of having those improvements made to our facilities. So that's the reason why I advocated for this at this time. You know, I was transparent in you know, presenting this to the Finance Committee, you know, with blanks because I didn't have a recommendation of who, but we wanted to go through a process to select an individual or a firm. We received 4 proposals. 2 were at $40,000, 1 was at $42,000, and 1 was at $50,000. So I think we received, competitive pricing around this. And then the question then is about, which firm, would advance our interest in the strongest way at this time. And, the recommendation that I've advanced is my best judgment on that. And so I believe it's prudent to move quickly on this. Delaying, will be a lost opportunity.
Yeah, and being that I still have the floor, Mr. President, just let me say, this FMP thing is serious business. Obviously, we don't like spending money, but in this instance, we have to. I can tell you, as someone who has worked on FMP since 2004, I still can remember my first meeting with Manny Rivera, who was superintendent, and that's, what, 3 superintendents ago? David Gant talking about the first phase of FMP in 2004. Phase 2 has got to happen, and we can't dither around with this thing. I know folks don't like spending money, but anyone that knows Albany, there's a price you have to pay in terms of having people on the ground. I did say to Mr. Ansborough, I said to you, I always have concerns about us spending money on these types of things, but after visiting some schools with the superintendent a couple of days ago, we have to. This phase 2 is very important for the overall health of our district. So we gotta do what it takes in terms of getting this legislation passed, and we need someone there representing only Rochester's interests. I care about the rest of the state, but in this instance, I'm looking to elbow Buffalo and Syracuse and Albany. I love them out of the way, because right now we need someone there that's going to be advocating mainly for Rochester to push through this phase 2 legislation. It's that important, and if we miss the timeline, I don't know what would happen in terms of us being able to make up for that lost time. I think we're already behind.
And one of my large concerns as well is that, could the state revisit the whole opportunity, to make these sort of improvements?
And then my last point, Mr. President, then I'll be quiet, is there is a clear deliverable, and this is not an open-ended contract, right? So FMP legislation, just clarify that.
Sorry, the deliverables are this. So the first would be, additional financial support as part of the budget. That would be April 1st. The second would be introduction and passage of the bill, this session in June, and then beyond that, it would be assisting us with developing a foundation for a multi-year financial plan, including assistance from Albany into the fall. What these firms told us is that, while the pricing is at the $40,000, the vast majority of this work is going to happen between now and June 15th. One of the firms, not the firm I'm advancing, one of the firms had no interest in a monthly fee because of that. This particular firm was willing to spread it out over a monthly basis for us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President?
Mary, and then Mr. Powell.
I want to ask my colleagues, in terms of, having been on the board much longer than I have and having used lobbyists in the past, do you believe that this will add a significant advantage over using Big Five lobbyists, other approaches? Just in the interest of discussion among colleagues, is there a feeling that this is a benefit? My inclination, just like I spoke on other issues, is to minimize expenditures on non-instructional items, but at the same time, I value the advancement of FMP, and I want to, if there really is a consensus that this is a significant advantage for us, I would like to support it.
Anybody want to respond to that? Commissioner Powell, you want to start?
Well, it may be that the questions I have feed into that, but I'm not willing to have that conversation beyond a yes or no answer, and I don't believe we've ever gotten anything useful out of our lobbyists, period, exclamation point. what, but let's suppose we go forward with this. I need a couple points I need to make. One is the Syracuse board just got their phase 2 legislation. What would we ask for that's different from the Syracuse boilerplate? As far as I know, we haven't even got language, and that already puts us behind the 8 ball, unless we're willing to clone language that's already been approved and for Syracuse and say, we only want what other districts are getting. What are we asking for that's different from Syracuse? Do we even know that? Has there even been a discussion about that? There's no point in hiring a lobbyist if you don't know what you're going to be asking for.
Actually, the only thing I could answer that to you is that it would be in better place if Rochester would have received similar to Syracuse in the first round. And we're trying to avoid the mistake of the class, and we believe that, you know, working through this individual model that we might be able to accomplish. Commissioner Evans said something very clear, and that is, it took Rochester 7 years last time. We can now afford that. I mean, Commissioner Evans today and I toured some building that I shook my hand because I come from I've seen some challenging situation like, and I'm talking about where the teachers
all
and
due
the
respect to
parents
Mr. Superintendent, but my concern is the political one. Does Buffalo have a better relationship with their delegation that they can get what they want the first try? Does Syracuse have a better relationship with their delegation that when it comes to home rule, they can get phase 1 and phase 2 that works for them, and we have to keep fighting tooth and nail and debating with staff members and hiring lobbyists who are very, very tight with certain members of our delegation in order to have success. The price tag of our success seems to be coercive. Let me say it just that clearly. But we've also muddled the waters by talking about trying to get more aid out of this year's budget. One of the fourth line in the resolution says that that this individual represent and advocate legislative positions and platforms on behalf of the district and provide related services, including consultation with the board prior to legislative sessions to determine priorities. We can't even agree on this board what to advocate for when it comes to the budget. We haven't had that conversation. I've had that conversation. I've said, look, guys, if all we ask for is go along with the rest of the state and talk about the gap elimination, this district gets $5 million more. Only $5 million out of a $1.6 billion increase in aid. If the governor were to advance legislate or the assembly to offer a counteroffer that lifted the cap, that actually gave us what the contract for excellence called for, we'd have $100 million more. But as a body, we're still debating whether we deserve more. We're not ready to have a conversation with a lobbyist because we're not on the same page ourselves.
Well,
I'm done. Thank you.
Mr. President, to go back to Commissioner Adams' question, I would say the answer is yes, in terms of more resources. For me, I mean, maybe I'm selfish just because I've been around working on this F&P thing forever. For me, it's get us legislation for F&P and get it passed before the session ends, period. And then, by the way, if you can get us any extra aid, we'll take that too. I just think that we just have to be blunt in terms of what we want. I mean, you know, more resources, period. But more importantly, phase 2 F&P legislation. It doesn't even have to be wrapped in a bow. That's what we want. It's and even on the larger issue, it's jobs for Rochester, period. It's going to put people to work. Those folks that went through that program that are still waiting for the F&P to get jump-started can start getting excited again about jobs. I mean, so for me, it's, and I think we have to have a broader conversation about what all we want to ask the state. But in this moment, This is like a triage type thing, where it's, look, this is the emergency that we have. And you know, I'm somebody that was skeptical about any of this, but I know how Albany works. I know how things work. And although we may think that we all know how it works, and remember, this is not just about our delegation. Our delegation, they do what they can, but Albany is bigger than our delegation, much bigger than our delegation. Now, I'm sure if you talk to members of our delegation, they will tell you that it's bigger than just them. So this isn't just about working our delegation. We also have to work the folks that kind of do run things in Albany. And the largest delegation in Albany, if anyone doesn't know, is New York City. So we need someone that understands that those dynamics.
What is the value of round two? I mean, what's the potential value of round two?
435 million.
435 million, and we're spending 40,000 to get 435 million. Because I'm with Commissioner Evans on this. We're trying to get some money to improve our buildings and to perhaps give a few people jobs. So the investment is 40,000 to get 430-something million.
Yes,
without
sir.
any guarantees, of course.
Correct, and I think, you know, from the board leadership, you know, I tend to be frugal, even with the trophy idea, trying to save $20. But this is, you know, the potential for this is significant.
All right. So I have a couple other questions. Do you know whether Syracuse used a lobbyist to get their money?
They did not. They had a sitting mayor. There was no transition, and so they did not.
So did Buffalo use a lobbyist to get their money?
You know, I did not go back, you know, to check with Buffalo because their cycle was significantly ahead of ours.
And Commissioner Evans tells us that when he was with Manny Rivera, we used the lobbyist. Is that right?
I don't
to
think
get the round one.
I don't know if we did in the beginning.
Did we ever use it?
We did use one in round one.
Before, right. We used Kevin Cleary before.
I see Cleary. I think I asked the question. Someone else might have too, but there was some responses to board questions, and it shows that we used Cleary in 2008, 2009, and 2010. And when was round one of the FMP? Around that time? 2008?
It was during Cleary's term.
Yeah, and then it looks like we used Scott Gaddy, or Excelsior, in 2003. Does anybody know why we used him in 2003 and didn't use him again in 2008, 2009, 2010? And if the numbers are so tight, why did you choose Scott Gaddy as compared to those others?
So there were a member of my purchasing team and myself, you know, that conducted an interview of the 4 respondents that submitted proposals, and the evaluation was based on these things. One was, who do we think had the best opportunity to get the job done? That was one. Experience was a second. The ability to reach consensus, that was another point. And then cost was another factor. Those were the factors that we used to make a judgment. The person who's a member of my staff, he deliberately, you know, convened independently and came to the joint consensus on the recommendation that we've advanced.
Did Cleary apply this time around?
Yes.
So I'm going to make some assumptions. I'm going to make the assumption that cost, it sounds to me, cost was pretty equal. That was one of the factors. Pretty close?
Yeah, one was
42?
Two were 40, one was 42, one was like 50.
All right, so they're all about in the same ballpark. I'm going to make a huge assumption. Experience was pretty equal? No. Yes.
Experiences were close.
We're close. Okay. So then what we're left with is get the job done and consensus. I assume you meant building legislative consensus. So let's just talk straight here. Scott Gaddy knows David Gant, right? Hey, let's be very transparent, because I'm not going to have anybody think I don't know what the deal is here.
No, I think
he does know. He does know David. Let me answer the question myself. Yeah. He does know David Gant. David Gant is a senior member of our delegation in Albany. Is that right? Is that right? Yes, he is. Right. And is it fair to say that David Gant would have some influence in passing or assisting the passage of this legislation? Right.
You would, as well as other members of the delegation.
All right.
in the same way.
Does Scott Gaddy do you know whether Scott Gaddy has the kind of relationship that he has with those other members of the delegation that he has with David Gant? Do you know?
I believe he has the relationships needed across the spectrum to advance our needs here.
Okay, and then when you compare him to the other folks like Cleary, is he more competitive in those two areas, getting the job done in consensus?
On those two areas, that's why we advanced this recommendation.
Okay. And I'm going to, Bill, you don't have to answer this. I'm going to make the assumption that one of the reasons why you picked him, and don't worry about what I'm thinking, I'm just thinking out loud, that you picked him because you believe he can get the job done and he can build consensus because he has David Gant's ear and they have a good relationship. And for me, colleagues, I'm just keeping it real. It's $40,000 for $433 million. I'm just being honest about it. I'm being honest about it. We want this money so we can fix our schools and so that we can get jobs for people. I'm just keeping it real. And I believe that we ought to go with a person who has the capacity to build consensus and get the job done. And that's what lobbyists do. And if this lobbyist knows David Gant and others, as you said, and you guys have made the considered judgment that he can get the job done and he can build consensus, I'm voting for it. But I want to be straight with people. I want to be honest with people.
He also has close relationships in the Senate that are going to be very necessary.
Fine. That's where I'm at.
Let me just say, I wish that we had this kind of conversation before we had passed the resolution to enter into contract over at 690 St. Paul. Now, we talking about $15 million, and here we talk about 40. Come on now. It was just like that. You spend $15 million, but when it comes here, we talk about 40,000. Excuse me, we peeing and emming. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't know what you're saying.
We pissing and moaning.
Hey, call the question.
Call the question.
No, Mr. President.
Over $40,000. But you passed $15 million, put our children over there at 690.
Okay. The question has been called. Can we get a vote?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go straight to vote.
Unless anybody else, did anybody else have anything to say?
I called the question, Mr. President.
We're good? Okay. All right, so that is Resolution 507. Let's do a roll call. Let's start down at the end.
No.
Mr. Powell? No?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
All right, you got that, Madam Clerk? Yes. All right, so let's...
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's why I tried to...
All right,
well,
so...
it is after 9.
So, yeah, let's do, let's do resolutions.
President,
Yes, ma'am.
President White,
Yes.
could we also consider 510 separately?
No, we just did 507. That's all we just did.
Right.
Now we're going to do 508. Oh, you want to do 510 separately?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, let's do 508 to 509. Can I get a
So moved,
motion?
Mr. President.
Is there a second?
I'm a little...
All right. Commissioner Powell gave us a second. All those in favor, any discussion on 508 to 509? No discussion? All those in favor of 508 to 509, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
I'll ask the superintendent a question about 509 afterwards.
Okay,
I'll vote.
all right. All right, so 510, I'm sorry. Can I get a motion to discuss 510?
So moved, Mr.
Is there a
President.
second?
Second.
Commissioner, Vice President Elliott seconded. Commissioner Adams, discussion?
Yes, this resolution has not been vetted through any committee, and it was submitted to the board late, just earlier this week, with no opportunity to review the rationale for our pursuit of replicating practices from a particular school into the district. And there are other numerous questions that I have. And while I appreciate that there may be people available today to express the rationale, I would personally like time to review more information, and I think it would be beneficial to the board as a whole to review more information. It may be surprising to some people that I would actually support projects to replicate charter school practices into the district. In fact, I've been really intrigued by what I've been hearing about the Young Women's Leadership Academy's work with restorative justice practices, and I think that we should look into that. But This particular proposal, I would really like to see referred to Excellence in Student Achievement Committee so that it gives us both time and the ability to look into the rationale for embracing this particular school's approach.
Commissioner Adams and I discussed this, and is there a reason why this did not go to ESA? I mean, this is a pretty substantive and important direction, which actually perhaps we should have been taking years ago, because charter schools were supposed to be incubators for our success. So without speaking to the merits of this particular arrangement or marriage, is there some reason why this wasn't vetted in ESA? And if there isn't a specific explanation now, that's fine. But is there, then the second question would be, is there some reason why we couldn't just refer this to ESA?
As you can see here, takes an enormous amount of planning. You and I were in a meeting where part of the accusation is that we don't plan in advance. And I love discussion and everything else, but I'm afraid that you will continue to perpetuate what you and I agreed that we should plan better. And you know, again, this is a low risk involvement in terms of that potentially could open the door. Let me give you in terms of best practice. Even I had challenged the district around customer services, where I have parents that have complained to me since I've been here in my coffee conversation that they can't drop their children to school early because you know, our building I know open. Charter school and some parents are going there just for that reason alone. And there are many other practices like you mentioned restorative justice and safety and parents and community engagement. One of the things that they are, you know, again, there's a potential benefit that we've been far behind, like you said, around some adopting best practices, that be from charter school, that be from public school, all this. So.
Could I respond? So, I mean, as we know, part of the major impetus for charter schools a long time ago was to develop innovative practices. So charter schools as a whole and practices, Dr. Vargas, are not the same. You know, they're very different. I mean, that's part of what charter schools are all about, is having differences across them. And what I'm saying I think is necessary for this board to do is to understand the rationale for this particular replication. And with all due respect, the resolution indicates that Dr. Vargas, you signed a letter of support for this in March 2013, a year ago, with no information to the board regarding any interest in replicating practices of that particular charter school. And, you know, I am aware from reading the literature and from staying current that there are some serious criticisms regarding uncommon schools, regarding exclusionary disciplinary practices, high rates of attrition, and so on. And I don't presume to say that Rochester's local schools are necessarily consistent with that pattern of uncommon schools, but uncommon schools in general do sustain really serious criticism regarding, again, exclusionary disciplinary practices, high rates of attrition, and possibly styles of instruction that are highly regimented and may result in higher test scores for some students, but that doesn't mean that we should be willing to embrace them without examination into our district.
Actually, if you would like, I don't know, Mrs. Hall, if you'd like to respond to that, because that's quite the contrary of my data.
I would actually like an opportunity for independent study prior to voting.
Ma'am, you have to step up to the mic if you wanted her to speak.
Thank you.
Could you identify yourself and just your name, please?
I'm Anna Hall. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Uncommon Schools in Troy and Rochester. And so I want to clarify quickly, because I totally appreciate your point, Ms. Adams, in terms of the difference between replication and dissemination. And so maybe if I could go through what the grant would be offering, what it would fund. So it would fund $500,000 of PD that would be voluntary and completely free to participating schools and principals who would opt in and go through a process, demonstrating their own interest. So this is not something that's being forced on anyone, and it's nothing to do with Rochester Prep's very unique, and you're right, different approach to some of the behavior aspects of its program. So in particular, it's around Common Core, right? So it's around pedagogy and content instruction, not around behavior, not around some of the practices that you might have concerns about. It's also $150,000 worth of leadership training through the Relay Graduate School of Education for principals, which is a year-long principal training program that has hundreds of principal participants from across the country that come together in a cohort-style training in New York City that Uncommon Schools, that would be funded through this grant. And then ultimately, the opportunity to participate in video feedback sessions. So something that we found to be particularly helpful. And again, this is about what we believe to be some best practices around personal professional development, not necessarily around model of school. This is about working together and struggling together in a new world of Common Core, not about us saying, we have the silver bullet, you have to be like us. This is not our goal. We have what we believe to be a great relationship, working relationship with the superintendent, which is why he signed the letter of support for us to even apply for the grant. And so, I'm happy to answer any questions that would be helpful or speak to you all. I think the belief was because this was voluntary, schools themselves would opt in, and it would be at absolutely no cost to the district, and it's around content and development and expertise development, as opposed to saying, we're going to make your schools like our schools.
Well, I guess I too have a problem with it just coming and not really understanding what's being requested, and just to hear it, in 2 minutes spiel without really understanding what's going on. I appreciate you saying there's not cost to the district, but it's not only, what I believe that we're responsible for here, in addition to the financial responsibilities, also to ensure, instructional oversight as well. And so, to have something to be presented like this, it's either lack of respect for this board, and somebody should have gotten a telephone and called us to talk about this. And I'm just concerned that it's being presented at this point where we can't really ask critical questions, and I'm just concerned about
Well, I mean, I did come here for that reason, and so I'm happy to be a resource to the extent that I can be. If there's a better venue...
We should table it.
Well, I only would add the caveat, and this is not, this is not a threat. We would have to go to SED and essentially ask, if tabling it means an extensive delay, we would have to get SED's essentially permission probably to wait 1 more year, because the expectation was for schools to apply to opt in this year and to do a needs assessment for them to determine what they most want to focus on, for next year to be the delivery, and the following year to be the evaluation, which is, again, determined by the SED grant structure.
What's an extensive delay in your terms?
Well, again, so the goal would be if we could have schools identified, selected, opted in this school year. Principals, the Relay Graduate School of Education principal training launches every July. And so I would, if there was a way for people to sort of hold that time, knowing that they might not know for sure whether they were in or, there's just complexity, I think, in terms of also principals being able to plan in terms of looking ahead to next year, how they're allocating things like, if this is a focus area that they want to have or not. So
if I could just ask a question. So for instance, if it did go to a committee, if it went to the Excellence in Student Achievement, and I don't know what you have on the agenda, but if it went next month and then came back to next month to this meeting, would that be an extensive delay? I mean, it's only a month. And if you've got July, I just, quite frankly, I don't feel comfortable with it just because I don't know what's going to be covered. I know that we've done a lot of work in terms of Common Core, so it's just getting a better understanding. And then you talked about the leadership training. We've invested, gosh knows how much in terms of the Soups Academy. So I would like to feel like it's aligned with what we're doing or complementary. So not saying that it's not going to add value, just having us understand what value it's going to add for our students as well as our building leaders. Does that make sense? Or?
It does. I think I'd have to know more about when those next meetings were scheduled to understand whether myself or someone on my team could be available.
2 weeks.
Oh.
No, don't worry about that. 2 weeks. Commissioner Evans, who chairs the committee, says it would be before the committee in 2 weeks.
Right. Well, I would just need the date and time because, again, you know,
it's March 11th, right? March 11th.
5
So
o'clock.
I would not be able to be here. It's possible that I could get someone from my team to be here. Our goal here is you know, is to offer $500,000 worth of free PD, and by no means is this, you know, the $500,000 worth of free drink the Kool-Aid. But you know, I would have to look and see what availability folks would have to be. I mean, we have materials that we've shared with folks we've been working with in the central office. Okay.
Yeah. So
and you have
we don't know. This is literally coming to us, at least for me, the first time. So we haven't, and that's the thing, is that I don't want you to feel like, you know, we're not grateful for potentially what you could do for us. It's just for us, and at least for me, speaking for myself, looking at everything that we've done, making sure that it's the right trajectory to where we're going, which I'm sure under our superintendent, he wouldn't put something that wasn't, but it's just us better understanding so that we feel confident in the decision. Does that help? Okay, I just want to.
Any other comments or questions?
Yes, you're from True North?
Yeah, I work for Uncommon Schools. True North is the network of schools in upstate New York. Uncommon Schools has 38 schools in New Jersey, Massachusetts, and New York State.
And you've got True North program here in Rochester?
In Rochester, yeah.
So how successful has True North been?
There are 4 schools in Rochester right now. I think our state test scores have been quite strong.
Tell me absolute what the state scores have been.
I can't cite them off the top of my head, but last year's 8th graders were the single top performing public school students in all of Rochester. Okay. And our demographics do align with the district. We have equal or more students living in poverty, equal or more students of color. We do lag in special education and ELL, but not because of exclusionary practices, because of some of our classification practices, particularly at the elementary school level, where we tend to not classify students as often.
Well, I think what I hear people saying is it would be good to have an opportunity to sort of hear some more of that detail. I mean, what you just said, it sounds extremely impressive in terms of what you've been able to do with some students, but I think I hear a couple of people saying they want to do a little more probing, and Commissioner Evans, who chairs the committee, says that we have available 2 weeks from now, and I'm hoping that if they vote to table, I don't have a motion yet, but if they vote to table, that somebody from your organization could be there.
We can figure it out, and I don't want to seem. I also don't want to seem ungrateful to this committee and its time. I think that, you know, we're just, as you know, working with SED and its grant department. You know, we're wanting to pull this together in a way that makes it seamless for schools and for principals. You know, because it feels like next year is already here, I don't know, or if that's just me.
Commissioner Elliott, did you make a motion to table? I know you said table. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second to that?
Or let me just ask, is the consensus to just refer it to the committee, to ESA? I would withdraw the table and refer it to ESA.
President can refer, the President can refer.
You guys just want to refer it?
Yep.
Either way, it would come back. It would have to come back to the next meeting. But either way, however you want to do it, I'll just refer it.
Rochester in March is second only to my favorite to Rochester in February, so.
Okay. All right, so what I'll do is.
Will it be spring by then?
So we'll avoid voting on it. I will just refer it to ESA. And,
do we need a formal revoking of the motion?
But she didn't even make her motion.
No, I'm not talking about the motion to table, I'm talking about the motion that
discuss?
to brought it to discussion.
No,
I don't know,
think so.
I'm, Mr. Parliamentarian?
I don't think it makes sense. No, we're good. All right. So, that's 5:10. We appreciate it.
Great.
Someone will be.
Someone will,
And actually,
someone will be
that
here.
meeting actually is going to be later. It's going to follow CIDR because we have a long agenda.
All right, so they'll work it out with you.
Okay,
Mr.
great.
Pre-
So that
Yes.
someone will,
Thank you very much.
someone will,
be in contact with
Thank
probably Ms.
you.
Lee or someone
Yeah, great.
will be in touch with you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. President, can we
Yes.
take 511 on its own as well? I
Yeah, absolutely.
have to ask a
Yep,
question.
Yep, because we have to take 512 on its own anyways.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to 511. Motion to discuss. Can I get a motion?
511?
for
Yeah,
discussion.
511.
So moved.
And there's a second, Commissioner Powell.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Ordinarily, any gift, donation that comes to us goes without any challenge. Sometimes it even gets recognized as a great thing, but I'm a little worried that this is funds that are going to college, to fund a college scholarship, unless I'm misreading it. And having given funds of my own through the district, this could be problematic. Has the legal department looked at this in particular? I know that Chuck Johnson, who is in the room as our stand-in parliamentarian, has worked with me on my on the scholarship fund that was made up of my returned salary, and it was very difficult to dismantle it, that fund, once it was established. Has this been through legal? Can this be tabled and ask someone in legal to look at this first? Because it may be that processing this through Rochester Education Foundation might be a better way to get the funds where the donors actually want to see it go. Because we're not talking about giving money to the school, we're talking about establishing a college scholarship fund, and that could be tricky.
Mr. Superintendent, can Mr. Johnson answer that question?
Of course.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that. I know you weren't here to prepare for that. Yeah, we missed you.
Thank you. What this really involves is an administrative responsibility. By accepting the money, there's a responsibility to set up a scholarship program. So it would be incumbent upon the administration to develop that program and administer it consistent with the gift. It can be done. As you've experienced, Commissioner, in the past, we're not really in the business of administering scholarships that effectively, that well, and sometimes an institution that does that as a matter of course can be the best approach, but this can certainly be done.
Okay. I just wonder if we ought to give this time to actually be processed through legal to potentially offer an alternative to the donors.
Mr. Superintendent, was it your intention by presenting us this resolution that you wanted to manage this scholarship? Is that what you wanted to do?
More likely, the money was given.
We will have flexibility. Like Mr. Johnson is saying, our council, that you administratively you can set it up where you even find a group of parents that want to administer this scholarship fund. In other words, our obligation is to make sure that we run it accordingly to what the gift was intended.
So
you had to set the administrative structure to do that, an advisory council,
So you want to do this, and he says you can do it?
Of course, yeah, that's it. So we will not bring it to you if we were not able to do it. But it might be that just to answer Commissioner Power's question, if we found an organization that were to run this scholarship at no cost for the intended purpose, I don't think that there would be a problem as long as Monroe is associated with it.
As long as we follow the direction.
Correct.
And it sounds like this is fairly limited. It's intended to be used for scholarships. So the district, as long as it uses it for that purpose, is honoring the donor's request.
Correct.
I'm only saying it is cumbersome. It's essentially an additional duty on our district that doesn't directly benefit the district in terms of gifts to our schools. And in the past, the state comptroller has meddled in these kind of these. The comptroller question? I mean,
this might be a little difference about engaging in soliciting funding and campaigning and spending district resources versus someone willing and wanting to give us a gift. Clarify that.
Certainly, we can accept this gift. We can administer it. There aren't a lot of specific strings attached. It says it's specifically for James Monroe High School. And as long as it doesn't even say it has to be managed by the school district, but the express purpose is for scholarships for college-bound economically needy students. That's the criteria. It doesn't say how long. It could be done in a single year. It could be done over a period of time. It really gives the school district a lot of discretion in terms of how that is used.
Commissioner Elliott?
Vice President White, I would, whatever decisions that we make, Mr. Superintendent and President White, I think we should involve the school. They have more information about this, I believe, and they may be able to add some more information to the conversation. So I would recommend if that's, I mean, if this.
But we will involve the school. Everything that you're asking us to do, process. We will do it legally. We will do it accordingly to how it was designed, the gift. Everything that you're asking, you have, of course, you could hold me accountable if I do it otherwise.
You say you want to do it, and you're the lawyer, and you say you can do it, right?
Yes.
All right. Question's been called. All those in favor of Resolution 511 say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, 512.
I know the vote on this is yes, and I know it's right away. I know it's no P and M on this resolution.
We have a motion to discuss 512. I assume you make that motion?
So moved.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Please.
Call the question, Mr. President.
Oh, no. Let it have a little beefsteak. Go ahead.
On this, let me get
Excuse me, might be excused for about 2 minutes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Might be excused for an hour.
Yeah. I know. In this resolution, this is talking about removing our students and staff from the property, the 690 St. Paul Street property. And so I am asking that we consider this, again, I think that we're doing our students and staff an injustice by having them over in this building because of the environmental conditions that are over there. I don't trust the landlord. As you know, he came out after the fact, indicating that there was a brownfield. It was a brownfield status, and I just think that this person does not have our students' best interest and our staff's best interest in this agreement. So I've asked for you to support this resolution and get our children and staff out of that building.
Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor of Resolution 512 say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Nay. The nays have it.
The next thing is coming a lawsuit from me.
Okay. All right, 513. Now, we have to do something a little bit different here. 513, which is on page 42 of your packet, relates to amending acceptable use of the district's network policy. That's policy 1950. All right? Normally, under our policy manual, 2410, our policies, our resolutions come up first as an information item, a discussion item, and an action item. And Commissioner Cruz earlier referred to this as an information item. I am making a motion to, well, I'm sorry.
You're asking.
You are absolutely correct. Okay. Let me just finish my remarks first. Thank you. What I would like to see happen here is for this particular resolution to be voted on today. And what allows us to do that is, follow me here, policy number 2410, which essentially says the rules and regulations of the Board of Education can be modified at any time by the Board of Education. But it has to be by a majority of the board. So the first thing we have to do is we have to vote, in my construction or interpretation of our bylaws, so we have to vote to bypass the information, discussion item, and action item agenda. Will someone make that motion? Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. So, now, Commissioner Adams, you have a motion with respect to Resolution 513?
I would like to move to make a friendly amendment.
What's that amendment, ma'am?
On section E, the second sentence. The request must include the reason for the request, period of information requested, comma. My amendment proposes to strike. Is it page 11? Does that make sense with the form that you have? Section E.
That's all requests for access.
Correct. And so the second full sentence begins, the request must include the reason for the request, period of information requested, comma. I'm proposing to strike, provide explanation for reasonable suspicion to obtain the information, and then continue on as is with and specify any additional parties. So again, the proposal is to strike, provide explanation for reasonable suspicion to obtain the information.
And the purpose for that is that we don't want to establish a legal standard in the policy?
That's right. David
Correct.
Formella had indicated that you just don't want to do that. You don't, at one point it had probable cause, then it had this language. You just want to take that out because that adds a burden to the administration or anybody seeking to get these things. Just don't even put that in there. So that's the reason behind that, I guess. Any further discussion on that friendly amendment? All those in favor of Commissioner Adams' friendly amendment to take out that language regarding standards, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, so now we have Resolution 513 with Commissioner Adams' friendly amendment. Any further discussion on Resolution 513? There being no further discussion, all those in favor of Resolution 513 say aye. Aye. Any opposition? The ayes have it. All right, we're getting close to scandal, Commissioner Evans. And we're working on it.
Was it a show you watch?
Unfinished business. There is none. Is that right, Madam Clerk? I'm sorry?
A very quick new business request.
Okay, I'm not there yet, but
Okay.
I just want to make sure there's no unfinished business, right? All right. There is new finished revision of school-based planning, but that's a information item, correct, Commissioner Cruz? All right, no discussion on that. Commissioner Adams, you have some new business?
Yes, this is in follow-up to some communications I've had with the board regarding desire to improve our welcoming of parents and families into schools. So I have sent some very specific, pretty minor edit language, and this actually, I want to acknowledge, thank you, Superintendent Vargas, for meeting with me to discuss my thoughts on these issues. So this is with your support. This is just one minor suggested change in language to policy 1240, the school's visiting policy. And so I would like to request, Commissioner Cruz, that you consider that at your convenience in the policy committee. And this is in follow-up to communication I had sent before. Thank you.
Just send me something.
Yep, I did, and it was also given to the,
All right, sounds like a plan. No further new business? We good? The next meeting of the Board of Education is, yes?
It's not, I just want to make sure that we don't pass this, but I want to invite each one of you for the first time. I think I was telling about 10 years, we have a significant number of our school we're representing Session 5. There's some great game going on Saturday and Sunday. I hope to see you there, and I hope we win. And if I win, I'm normally not a competitive person, but I would be jumping around. So I hope you get there to join me, and so you can jump with me.
So other than that meeting, where is it, the Blue Cross Arena?
Yes,
Yeah,
we're
Blue Cross Arena.
desperate. Would like to win. I mean, our students deserve that.
Let me just finish this up. Other than that basketball game, March 27th is our next business meeting at 6:30. Also, be mindful there is that town hall meeting, March the 4th here at 6 o'clock. Commissioner, Vice President Elliott?
I was just, Commissioner Cruz, Mr. Superintendent, said that if we come to the games, you'll buy us dinner.
Whoa.
If we win, I'm willing to do pretty much anything. Let me put it this way. I could be persuaded to do pretty much anything if we win. I've been here for 3 years. We haven't won anything yet.
Yes, sir.
I was talking to Principal Aníbal Solis. He was saying that this is one of the first... Aníbal Robach.
What's this?
He was saying this is one of the first times we've had so many...
Ladies.
Excuse us. The first time we've had so many city teams in the finals. So,
your
fantastic.
Your 1.5 million is paying off.
Yes.
But
Thank you.
It's better than the smile of the student, by the way.
How is the girls' East High School basketball team doing this year?
Yep.
They're in the finals?
Okay, we can discuss that in executive session. Can I get a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded, and we're going to adjourn from downstairs. So, what's that?
Deputy Superintendent Beverly Burrell Moore.